Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to simplify a radical using the ladder method. The ladder method is great if you struggle with your perfect squares. It's just a simpler way to simplify a radical, and you're still going to get the same exact answer as if you were to use the perfect square method. Okay, so before I get started, the first thing I want to do is I want to list all of my prime numbers. So my prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13. The reason why I'm listing these numbers is because those are the only numbers that I can divide by when I'm using the ladder method. And I'll explain what I mean. Okay, so let's get started and let's do the first example. So I want to simplify the square root of 40. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put 40 on my first step of my ladder. Then I want to look at my list of prime numbers that I just created, and then I'm going to ask myself, out of these prime numbers, what is the smallest number that can go into 40? So out of 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13, which is the smallest number that I can divide by 40? Well, 40 is an even number, so that means the smallest number that I can divide by 40 would be 2. So I'm going to put that 2 in front of my 40. Then I'm going to divide 40 divided by 2. That would give me 20. So 20 would go below the 40 on the next step. Then I'm going to ask myself again, what is the smallest number that can go into 20? That would be 2 again. So then I would put a 2 in front of my 20. Then I'm going to do 20 divided by 2, which would give me 10. Smallest number that can go into 10 would be 2. So these are all even numbers so far. So that's why we've been using 2, because even numbers are divisible by 2. So I'm going to put a 2 in front of 10. Then I want to do 10 divided by 2, which would give me 5. And then the smallest number that can go into 5, well, 5 is not an even number, so we cannot use 2, and 5 cannot be divided by 3 evenly, so the next option would be 5. 5 can divide by 5 and would give us 1. So once I get to 1 at the bottom of my ladder, I am done. So 1 and done. Okay, so now, after I finish my ladder, the next step is to circle my pairs. Now what I mean by that is any number that I see that is a pair, so that has 2, I'm going to circle them. So I circled a pair of 2s, and I left the 2 and the 5 by themselves because they do not have pairs. So these are lone sums. These are going to be by themselves. Okay, so after I've circled my pairs, the next thing I want to do is I want to bring down those pairs and merge them to just become one number. So because I have a pair of 2s, those are just going to become 1, 2. So if I had a pair of 5s, for example, those would merge to become 1, 5. If I had a pair of 7s, those would merge to become 1, 7. So whatever pairs you have are going to merge to just become one of that number. Okay? All right, so after I've merged my number to just become 1, 2, that number always goes in front of the radical. Okay, now what goes inside the radical? Well, the numbers that are by themselves are going to go inside of the radical, and they're going to be multiplying each other. So I'm going to be doing 5 times 2. Okay. And so that's really it. So just as a quick reminder, I am circling my pairs, bringing it down, merging it as one number, and then the lone sums, the ones that do not have a partners, go inside the radical. And then my final step would just be to simplify this. So I'm going to keep my square root of 2. I'm going to keep my 2 in front of my radical, and then I'm just going to do 5 times 2, which equals 10. And then I am done. So 2 square root 10, or 2 radical 10, is my final answer. Okay? All right, so let's try another example. We're working with a slightly bigger number. but it's the same process. So my first step would be to put 72 at the top of my ladder, okay? Then I want to ask myself, the smallest number that goes into 72 would be 2. Then I would divide 72 by 2, which is 36. Okay, smallest number that goes into 36 is 2. Oops, I want to do that in yellow. Okay, so 36 divided by 2 would give me 18. 18 divided by 2 would give me, well, the smallest number that goes into 18 is 2. So 18 divided by 2 would give me 9. Now, the smallest number that goes into 9 would be 3. Okay, 9 divided by 3 would give me 3. Smallest number that goes into 3 is 3. 3 divided by 3 would give me 1. Okay, so the next step, so I'm done with my ladder, and my next step would be to circle my pairs. So if you notice, in this case, I have 2 pairs. I have a pair of 2s and I have a pair of 3s. So what I want to do is I want to merge each of them and then multiply them together. So I'm going to merge my 2s to become just 1, 2 times, and then I'm going to merge my 3s to become just 1, 3. Okay, and so I have a 2, wait, can't forget my radical. All right, so then I have a 2 that's by its lonesome, and so that 2 is just going to be in the radical by itself. Okay. Okay, so then the last thing I want to do is I want to simplify. So I'm going to simplify 2 times 3, which would give me 6. Bring down my radical, bring down my 2, and that is my final answer. Okay, all right, so let's move on to a third example. Excuse me. Okay, so my third example would be 3 square root 8. Or you know what? I'm going to use a different number because there are 2 3s next to each other and that can be confusing. So let's do 2 square root 8. All right. Sorry, that should be a 28. 2 square root 28. Okay, got it. Okay, so if you notice, there's a 2 in front. That's different from our other examples. In our other examples, we only had the radicals. But in this example, we actually have a coefficient of 2. Now, whenever you have a coefficient of 2, you want to put that coefficient to the side and come back to it later. Okay, we're going to use it later. We don't need it right now. We are just going to focus on simplifying our radical like we've been doing. So I put 28 at the top step. Then the smallest number that goes into 28, so still using my prime numbers, the smallest number that goes into 28 would be 2. Then I want to do 28 divided by 2, which would give me 14. Then the smallest number that goes into 14 is 2. 14 divided by 2 would give me 7. Now the smallest number that goes into 7 would be 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, so I'm done. Circle my pairs. All right, so I'm bringing that down to just become 1, 2. Okay, then I want to draw my radical, and then my 7 that's by its lonesome is going to go inside. Normally, we would be done, but don't forget we have this 2 here, okay? We have this 2 here. And so what do we do with that 2? We bring it down, and we multiply it by our new coefficient. So we're multiplying our old coefficient times our new coefficient. So then I would just simplify this, which is 2 times 2, which would give me 4 square root 7, which would be my final answer. Okay. All right. I'm going to do one last example. Okay, so let's simplify 5 square root 75. So these are slightly larger numbers once again. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make this a 3. Let's simplify 3 square root 75. So once again, we have a coefficient We're going to put that coefficient to the side and come back to it later. And we're going to focus on simplifying 75. Okay, now the smallest number out of our prime numbers, so our list of prime numbers, that goes into 75 would be 5. Then we want to divide. 75 divided by 5 is, I'm sorry, the smallest number that goes into 75 is not 5, it would be 3. 3 goes into 75 as well. So I'm going to use 3. So 75 divided by 3 would give me 25. Now the smallest number that goes into 25 would be 5. And I'm going to divide. 25 divided by 5 would give me 5. Smallest number that goes into 5 would be 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Okay, so now I'm going to circle my pairs, merge it down. They just become 1, 5. Draw my radical, and then my lonesome number, my lonesome little 3 goes inside. Okay, normally we would be done, but we have this coefficient here. We're going to bring it down and we're going to multiply it by 3, or multiply it by the 5. That would give me 15 radical 3. And that is it. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching.